In this video, what I want to talk about is what does it mean to love yourself unconditionally? So when you think of that word, unconditional, what does it mean to you, and how many people do you know, or even when you're thinking about yourself, that you think love themselves unconditionally? And to me, what that means is that you accept who you are completely, that you understand your flaws. So you're not saying that you're perfect, you're not saying that you're the best and that you never make mistakes and that you do everything right and you're fantastic and that sort of thing. You're an objective person, but you are not too harsh on yourself. You accept those flaws and that you just embrace who you are. So it can be really difficult for lots of people because we live in a world where it is about judgment a lot of the time. We're kind of encouraged more to judge other people, and then if we're judging other people, then sometimes we're also reflecting back and judging ourselves. So it's always about the negative. Could you have done this better? Could you be prettier? Could you be slimmer? That person is this way, so therefore they're not a good person. Does that make me a bad person because I'm judging them? It's just a constant cycle for lots of people. And I think people are too critical on themselves. People are way too harsh. They're not kind enough to themselves. They absorb negative messages from others, and then they continue with these messages and then continue to be negative towards themselves. I've seen it in the work that I do. I've seen it in everyday life, really. And when you can get to a point where you just feel so good about who you are that it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, it doesn't matter what the media thinks, it doesn't matter what society. I'm not going to say that it just happens. It takes a lot of work. Now, anyone that's been watching my channels for a long time know that I've spoken about the fact that I was bullied at school. I've spoken about the fact that as a teenager, I'd be honest, I didn't feel that good about myself. And that came partly from being bullied at school and partly just because the environment that I was in. Right, so there's lots of things tied up in how we feel about ourselves. It could be to do with the culture and the society we're living in. It could be to do with the environment we're living in, our communities, what we see on TV, what we experience within our families. So if you are in a minority, for example, you're living in a predominantly white community and you're a young black girl, but your family is quite cultural and stuff, you get like a balance. But then if you go to school and you go to a school where there's only like 10 other black people in the school, which was my experience, you then have it's kind of really difficult to navigate. And I think for me, all of those things were difficult to navigate. I went through periods of time where I didn't love myself. When my dad is Ghanaian, African, and my mum's Jamaican, so going to school, people would kind of use that against you instead of it being a positive thing. It's cool now to be, Nigerian, Ghanaian, you got the Afro beats and stuff. It's cool. It's always been cool to be Jamaican, I think. But in the context of when you're at school and people want a target and want a reason to pick on you, then that was the reason. You being black, go back to Africa, and your features are this or whatever, I'll keep it PC because that's not what I was getting. And I think it is hard to love yourself under those conditions when everyone else is telling you that you're not lovable or that something's wrong with you. What you have to do is to recognise that that's coming from them. Those people do not have the power to tell you how to feel about yourself. And I think when I got to the point in my life where I just said, who are these people? They don't matter to me. They don't know me. And also I sort of felt a bit like, why am I so concerned about what they think? Yeah, it hurts when someone says to you, I don't want to play with you, and excludes you from their crew, or makes you feel like something's wrong with you. You can't escape that when you're a young person, and I think it's even harder now than it was then, because you feel rejected and you feel like there's something wrong with you. But then you have to get to a point where you say, if you want to work on yourself and you accept yourself unconditionally, and who cares what a stranger on the street thinks, who cares what the world thinks, who cares what the media thinks, it's about you. So you just have to get to a point where you're objective and fair. I'm someone that I won't criticise myself, but I will reflect. Now what that means for me, reflection means that I will reflect on my behaviour, I will reflect on how my day has gone, I will reflect on how I've done my job. I'll reflect on certain things and then I'll tweak things, but no, it won't because someone else has told me to. It will be because I'm saying, do you know what, Marianne, you were maybe a bit harsh the way you spoke to that person. Do you know what, Marianne, you could have done a lot better in that counselling session, or you could work harder with, you know, communication with your family. So it's about giving an objective view, accepting feedback when it's constructive. There is a difference. There's nothing wrong with constructive criticism because we can learn from it, and if it's coming from the right person and from the right place, then I think it can help us to, you know, believe in ourselves. It can help us to improve. So you have to dissect that. You have to decide what is constructive criticism and feedback that you can take and learn from, and what is just someone being like bitchy, you know, and just literally say you're this and you're that and you're that. If it doesn't have any value to it, and also if it just sounds like it's coming from a malicious intent, then you don't have to take it, you don't have to absorb it, just put it to the side. That's their opinion, okay, that's fine, thanks for your opinion. You know, sometimes I've said to people on Facebook, I hear what you're saying, I don't agree with it, and that's fine. Or sometimes I'll just say thank you for your opinion. Leave it at that, because it doesn't mean you have to absorb it, but you don't also have to get into battle with people. Loving yourself unconditionally means that you don't need to justify who you are. You don't need to chat for people to accept you, because you accept yourself. So it also means not beating yourself up, not taking scores and putting black marks against your mistakes. The amount of people that are walking around with like burdens that they're carrying. I did this 10 years ago, that makes me a bad person. I did this last week, that means I'm a failure. I'm not good enough because my boyfriend 6 years ago told me that I wasn't. I'm not good enough because 20 years ago, you know, when I was growing up, my parents told me that I wasn't. And lots of people are walking around with that baggage, but you don't have to carry that with you, because you have to focus on the 24 hours that you're in. And if you were to say to yourself, you know, those people said that, or that thing happened, but it doesn't have to mean that I'm going to carry this burden for the rest of my life. You can make a decision right now, you can make a decision today to say, I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing today, I'm just going to focus on how I feel, I'm going to focus on being more loving towards myself, I'm going to focus on accepting myself unconditionally. It just frees you then, it makes you feel, you know, free to be who you are. The other thing is to just accept the good, the bad and the ugly. Don't try to go either extreme. If you're too harsh on yourself, where you're just constantly criticising yourself, then that's not a good way to live. But if you're also never reflective and you just think that you never do anything wrong and that you never work on improving things, that's also sometimes not a good thing, because you may end up losing relationships with people. It's like you could hold yourself back if you don't do those reflective practices. I've learned that over the years, you know, the more I do the reflective stuff, the more I look at myself, work on my personal development, look at my areas of weakness. I don't use the word weakness in a negative way. We've all got weaknesses in some way, and we've all got flaws. So it's not to say they're a bad thing, but I'll say, okay, I can work on this, I can work on my communication. I can work on how I respond to my family better. I can work on how I do my videos a bit better. I can work on this is my weakness. So you can always use it in your favour. So it's about being authentic, live your life, you know. Treat yourself like someone you love. Some of the things people say to themselves, I'll ask them sometimes in my counselling sessions, if someone said that to you, would you accept it? And they'd say no, and I say, well, why are you saying it to yourself then? You know, if you love yourself, then you will not talk badly to yourself, and you will not be critical, you will not be overly harsh, you will not say things like, I am stupid, I am, you know, I am this, I am that, I am worthless. You won't say that, you will not use that language, because it won't feel right. So you want to get to a point really by loving yourself unconditionally, where you just accept who you are, where you have a sense of freedom in the world, you have authenticity, you decide that whatever environment you're in, you're going to be you. It's so freeing when you can be in different environments, whether it's at work, whether it's in the street, whether it's with your family, and you still are you. you don't change, you don't adapt, you don't say, I'm not going to show this part because they're going to think I'm, ghetto. I'm not going to show this part because they're going to think I'm weak. I'm not going to show this part of me because they're going to think this. It's nothing to do with what other people think. It's about you. It's about being yourself, being authentic. Loving yourself means that not everyone else has to, but you will continue to do that. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please feel free to share it with others. They might find it of benefit. Also, feel free to leave your comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Also, don't forget to like, and if you do want to subscribe to my channel, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.